Ah, yes. The TRD Pro, also known as TRD Pro, also known as Toyota Racing Development Pro. This is the one you want, this particular Toyota Tundra full-size pickup. If you want to go rock climbing and sand blasting and mud bashing and doing all those kind of things, because that's what this truck is primarily designed to do. It has an enhanced suspension system, so it can take a little more punishment without passing on that punishment to all your passengers, in which case you're going to have several passengers because it's only available in a crew cab configuration. Of course, you could have dogs. Dogs are passengers too. But I have a problem with this vehicle and dogs, and I'll explain that. And I'll explain what Toyota said to me about it. We'll look into this truck because this is of the realm of the new off-road, full-size, extremely expensive pickups that are available from all manufacturers. Every manufacturer has a version of this truck, if you will, which all started essentially with the Ford Raptor. But this ain't no Raptor. This is a TRD Pro. TRD Pro. That's what the tailgate says. I didn't say anything. God. Go back to your stall. Horses. All right, we're going to move on now, and we're going to look at this very closely. And it's a real interesting truck from the standpoint of driving off-road or not driving off-road. So stay with us. What more appropriate location than a muddy pasture for this particular vehicle right here? Well, actually, this thing is more designed for your off-road jumping about, rock climbing kind of stuff. This would be your TRD Pro Toyota Tundra. And it's included with this package is the Toyota iForce Max engine, which is a 3.4 liter V6 twin turbocharged, supplemented by a hybrid system. We'll get into this in detail later, but this color is called Terra, and it will terrify you. If you don't like pickup trucks, you'll find it terrifying. But this is a very large truck, and it has excellent ground clearance, and it has a lot of good body armor and everything else, but most importantly, it has a Fox shock suspension on it to make it a lot more, and a few other things. So it's not just the shocks, it's got some other parts that make it much more off-road worthy. And the thing about this truck is if you like the package, in other words, these suspension components, all the different things that go into it to make it a TRD Pro, there's one problem. If you don't want a crew cab, you can't get one. If you don't want a iForce Max hybrid engine, you don't have any choice. You have to have it, because that's the only way this truck comes. And one of the things I personally am not wild about is the fact that as a crew cab being the only available way to go, to the best of my knowledge, the only bed length you can get is 5.5 feet. Now, on some of the crew cabs, I think you can get a 6.5 feet bed on it, but I don't, again, I've always had this thing about the obsession the manufacturers have with this crew cab configuration. I thought, well, it makes the truck more expensive, first of all, and it eats up cargo room and cargo capacity. But that's the way they want to do it, so what are you going to do? I don't know. Here we have our bed area, which is in fact a composite, which is a good thing. And I'll lower this down for you. There we go. And as you can see, it's actually slight. If you're familiar with the previous generation Tundra, which is last model was a 2021 version. This bed is just a little bit shallower. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same in dimensions. And like I said, this new composite is really interesting stuff. It gets real slick when it's wet, unless you get like a liner that you can get from Toyota or a spray-on treatment that makes it a lot more, well, let's just say there's more friction involved. So you're able to, you know, not fall on your butt when it's raining. One of the things I'd hate about these trucks, all of the Tundras, I don't know why this is a big deal to me, but it is. How do you get into the truck if you have the tailgate down? There's nothing there. There's no, and this one doesn't even have, on the other vehicles, the other Tundras, you can get a, and I assume that it might be available as an option, I don't know, but you could get a step that folds out. It's like a $500 option. But here, I don't know where you'd put it. I guess you could put it by the exhaust pipes, but it's not there. And considering this is a $75,000 truck, you'd think it would have something, but I just find the design of the rear bumper on this to be terrible. It may be aerodynamic, I guess, but one thing it ain't is facilitating for your feet to get in the back of the truck to unload stuff. I'm not sure why they did that exactly, but they did. And we have a rear window, by the way, that goes down. Unlike its sister, which we've already seen, the Toyota TRD Pro Sequoia, which has a rear window that does not go down. And I don't like that. I like them going down. That's one of my favorite features of a lot of the SUVs. Well, let's see, let's back up a little bit here. There we are. So anyway, here's our truck. We're going to test it. We're going to talk about it. We have a lot of things to discuss because it's a very interesting pickup. And is this like a direct competitor for the Ford Raptor, stuff like that? I'm not so sure, but I'll tell you one thing, it's about over $20,000 cheaper. And that's a lot of truck. If you compare it that way, it's actually very affordable and a bargain because it has an excellent off-road capability. However, if you just look at it as a standalone, that's an awful lot of money, 75 grand for a pickup truck. But especially one that, I mean, it can tow. The biggest towing you can get out of a Tundra is not with the iForce Max engine, which incidentally is a very powerful engine. It's got nearly 500 horsepower and over 580, I think, foot-pounds of torque, peaking at 2,500 RPM, which is great. But the actual towing capacity is lower than some of the other Tundras that are equipped to tow heavy things. So there's that. Ah yes, there it is, the hood that don't open enough. Well, that's my opinion. Everything's just my opinion, but the fact of the matter is I'm not a big fan of what exactly we've had happen here with the development of the new generation Toyota Tundra. For some reason, the hood only opens that much. It doesn't look that bad from here, and there's a few other vehicles out there like this. But personally, I am not a fan of that because, well, it just makes everything more difficult for me. There we go. Okay, so here is our power plant. It is a 3.4 liter, which Toyota has, for some reason, has been calling a 3.5 liter, twin turbo V6 engine. And that is supplemented with a hybrid powertrain, including not lithium-ion batteries, but nickel metal hydride batteries that are located underneath the rear seat. And the main reason for this hybrid situation on this vehicle is not what you might think. It's not to improve gas mileage because it really doesn't much. You'll get 1 or 2 more miles per gallon compared with the other guys as far as in the Toyota lineup. Incidentally, there's some of our electricals right there. But it is longitudinally mounted, as all pickups seem to enjoy their engines to be mounted. And there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. See, you oriented? Have you oriented yourself? Good. There's all kinds of interesting dualism to this. For example, This looks like an air cleaner, and there's one identical on the other side. So there's twin air cleaners, there's twin turbochargers. If you drop down underneath here with our exhaust manifold, you'll have a turbocharger, and on the other side, same thing. And incidentally, one of the more interesting aspects of this vehicle, I think that the area that Toyota did the most work and research is on the engine of this truck, because it should be as reliable or more reliable than most of the other turbocharged V6s out there, and there's quite a few. But the reason it's going to work as far as reliability is concerned is cooling. Cooling is everything when it comes to these engines. And what they've done is they have twin intercoolers, which are incidentally located down in here on each side. And then you have an exhaust manifold that also has coolant going through it. So that helps to cool the exhaust before it even gets into the turbocharger, the initial turbine, which then passes over to an impeller, which compresses the air coming out of the exhaust, part of it anyway. And then that goes through the intercooler to cool it back down, and then it ultimately goes into the intake system of the vehicle. So you have a lot of cooling involved with this truck. And look, there's a lot of room too. Look at the space we got here. You can see all the way down the ground there, you see. So there's a fair amount of room for ventilation in this vehicle. So they've done a lot of work, I believe. I haven't heard of any issues so far of any of these new Tundras overheating. And I don't think you're going to see that, because I think they've really done their homework when it comes to that. It does, of course, have a 10-speed automatic transmission. And you'd love to know some of your numbers, wouldn't you? What was that? There's someone up there. What are they doing? That's right. Interesting. Hold on one minute. Apparently we're getting some dirt dropped off. Well, I don't know anything about that. Anyway, where were we? Oh yes, numbers. This very, very interesting I-Force Max power plant develops 437 horsepower at 5,200 RPM. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your torque peak is 583 pounds-feet at a lowly 2,400 RPM. Now what does that say? That says that's beautiful for towing. That's where you want your torque. The lower down in the rev range, the better, as far as getting your trailer underway. And it's a pretty, you would never know what's going on with all the things that are going on in this V6 with the turbocharging and the hybrid assistance, other than it feels like you have a big smooth motor underneath it, like a gigantic V8, except it doesn't get 13 miles per gallon. It gets better than that. It gets probably, so far we're getting about 17, but that'll probably get a little better and more highway miles I put on this thing. But that's what Toyota really did with the hybrid operation, is to give you, to fill in the gaps that every turbocharger, no matter how sophisticated it is and how modern it is, it has to spin up, to come up to speed in order to start providing power to the engine. And so you have a little bit of a gap, usually at lower RPMs. And what the hybrid system can do is you can use that amazing torque you get off an electric motor at those low RPMs to fill in the gap, if you will. So that provides, but the thing is, this is such a well-designed engine in terms of the turbocharging that, having driven a couple of the non-hybrid versions of this truck, it's a real nice engine, period. And the hybrid adds to it a little bit, but it's not a dramatic, unless you really are pulling a really heavy trailer from like up a hill by your house at 30 miles an hour. It's not going to help as much as you might think. And because of the additional weight of the whole system, like I said, the maximum towing capacity is lower on with a truck that has the I-Force Max engine as compared to the regular I-Force engine. Just food for thought, something to think about. This is, of course, four-wheel drive system, car, vehicle, truck, and it has a low range and a high range and a two-wheel drive range, but no automatic range. And Toyota could do it if they wanted to, I'm sure. Could put an automatic, but they don't want to on their trucks because I think there's a durability question that they're not happy with. They feel like the system is not heavy duty enough to put on a truck that may be hauling something really heavy, pulling a heavy trailer, hauling a considerable amount of payload and that kind of thing. So you're not going to have that automatic feature, but you'll live fine without it. I mean, if it's dicey outside, there's some snow and ice here and there, and you're a little up in the air about that, the fact of the matter is, you'll be fine if you just put it in four-wheel high. God, I keep getting a camera shadow, but it's that time of year where the sun is low in the sky, even during the middle of the day. So there's your engine. It's a beast, but a pleasant beast, and it's your friend. I just wish it got better mileage than it does. If you can read, Diane. There's our payload capacity, 1,345 pounds. Now what's interesting to me is, according to the specifications with this vehicle, it says the maximum payload is 1,600 pounds, but this thing has virtually no options on it that weigh 300 and something pounds that I know of anyway. So that's what they're claiming that the actual payload is, and that's lower. We have a 2014 Tundra, and our double cab, or whatever it's called, it's not the crew cab, it's the next one up, next one down I should say, actually has a higher payload capacity, longer bed. Makes more sense for us, but if you want a TRD Pro, that's your only choice, so you have to live with that smaller bed. Here's our 18-inch wheels, which is a perfect size for an off-road vehicle. The tire size is 285/65 R18. Those are 33 inches to those that follow such things. And these are Wild Peak AT3W tires, which I'm very familiar with since I have them on my car and our truck. We all have that same tire. And I'll tell you what, so far so good, although here's an amazing thing. If you look at the sidewall on these tires, it's especially reinforced for rocks and that kind of thing. I just had a tree fall on my truck, my vehicle, my 4Runner, and one of the tree limbs went right through that sidewall. And that's a lot of force to be able to do that. It destroyed the tire, but that's what insurance is for. But I was shocked because these are really, really well-made tires. And but nothing can stop Mother Nature when it wants to bash you. So if you look up top here, look at there, isn't that beautiful? That upper control arm is a TRD control arm, and you got your bright red spring. I mean, it's beautiful. And it also rides very well. The rougher the terrain, the more impressive it gets in its ability to quell all that horrible stuff. So there you go. And there we are. Look, we got this cool little camouflage. Our frame, as you can see in there, you can see that frame in there, and there's your rear Fox shock. And the front shocks are Fox shocks also. You have your fully boxed frame, which is a departure from the old triple tech frame that the previous generation Tundra had, which I thought was an excellent frame. But everybody likes to say their frame is boxed because people automatically assume that if the frame is boxed, it's stronger and it's better. I will tell you that is not necessarily true. That's the reason why you don't see a whole lot of big box frames on like tractor trailers. They usually have open C-channel and double open C-channel because they've found over time that seems to be the best thing, especially for pulling. But from a marketing standpoint, it's real good to say everything's boxed. And this is another area that I am not convinced, along with the coil spring rear suspension, that it's an improvement over the previous version. Maybe they say it is. I mean, I'll tell you a problem with where I live and fully boxed frames on pickups is salt inevitably from the road, when they're melting the snow, inevitably gets inside those box areas, and it stays there and it festers. And it takes years, but it can do a real amount of damage to your frame over time. And if you have an open C-channel, you can rinse all that out. When you wash out the truck, wash the undercarriage of the truck, you can rinse all that out, get rid of that salt. You can't do that with this truck. I asked Toyota about it, and they said, well, it's designed such that it drains really well and that kind of thing. So what do you expect them to say? They're not going to say, Yeah, we screwed up. We should have stayed with the old frame because it made a lot more sense for a pickup. But no. It's better now because it's boxed, and I'm sure it's wonderfully stiff. This particular frame is also used on the new Tacoma. It's used on the Sequoia. I believe it's used on the Land Cruiser. Across the world, it's the whole reason this truck has the frame it has on it is because it's much cheaper for them to have non-proprietary frames. They have a basic frame that they use on all these vehicles, and they can do subtle things like they can add stiffness and take out stiffness thanks to the new technology that exists to allow them to weld into the frame structure different thicknesses and strengths of metal as needed for the particular application. And they like that much better than just building a proprietary frame for the truck. Now, this doesn't make sense to me at all when it comes to the Tundra, because the Tundra is only built in one place, and that's San Antonio, Texas, in one plant. So you'd think with the full-size Tundra they could build their own frame there and it would be 100% suited just for this vehicle, but that's not the way Toyota wanted to do it. Instead, they wanted to have something that's worldwide, basically. So that's what happened, and that's why you have that particular frame. I've shown you the, have I shown you? I think I showed you the bed. But the new composite bed is really interesting. It's much lighter than steel. It won't rust, and it seems to be very solid. However, I asked them the question about what if you want to pull a fifth wheel trailer with this? How does that work out? And they didn't have, their answer was basically, well, hopefully the aftermarket will come up with what you need, but Toyota itself does not have any kind of like a pre-package for fifth wheel trailers, so that you have an easy application of putting the hitch in the bed area, which you need for that kind of trailer. So, you know, more and more this truck is a suburban truck than a work truck. And that's, I guess, where I'm most disappointed in it, is because as you can see here, this is a working environment. we have the need to use the vehicle for you know, farm work, and we'd like to be able to use a fifth wheel trailer from time to time, but I don't even know if I could find a proper hitch at this time. And also, like, you've heard people complain about it, and it's absolutely true. On this particular vehicle, there are no recovery hooks in the front or the back. You can just put a hitch receiver with a recovery hook in it for the back, so that's not a big deal. But for the front, it is. And I have recovery hooks on the front of my 4Runner. I use them all the time for all kinds of things. And yet, Toyota just decided not to put them on again, and I feel like it's because they're looking at the person that lives in Richardson, Texas, in a house in a suburb with a driveway that's 18 feet long. And they don't need recovery. Why would they need recovery? It doesn't even snow there. Why do they need recovery hooks? So I don't know what they were thinking about. These are real oversights to me. And I hate to say that, because I mean, this truck's a blast to drive. But like I say, there's some real serious reasons why I don't think this thing is exactly lighting up the sales charts the way they would have probably liked. But anyway, enough of that. Let's move on. Yes, indeed. There's no free ride in this carnival world. So there is our instrument cluster on our Tundra TRD Pro. And as you can see, it's unique in its way. In the middle there, you got your, well, on the outside ring here, woohoo, that's your tachometer, also known as a tachometer. And then you have in the middle of there, right there, is your digital speedometer. That's pretty much, I don't believe there's any other setups you can do as far as this is concerned. Right now I have the drive system set on Eco, but there are numerous choices. For example, there's Sport, and there's Normal, and then there's Eco. Oh, I went right past Normal. That's what Normal looks like. Sport's probably red. Ah, it's not. How unusual. But it looks like it uses the engine more. But if we go down here, hell, I don't know what it's telling you. I really don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. But that's what I have it on right now, is Eco. Just got to get better fuel economy out of this truck, which I haven't gotten that good of fuel economy, I'll be honest with you, and that's probably because of the kind of driving. I've been doing a lot of off-road stuff, the kind of thing that is not conducive to getting good gas mileage. But still, that's what you used to get with the old V8. I got about that with the 5.7 liter in the previous generation. So depends on how you drive it. I think in most around the kind of driving, and I think they think most people do, is just driving around town with the bed empty and not pulling a trailer, in which case the mileage will be considerably 2 or 3 miles per gallon better, I would say, even maybe 4 better than the previous 5.7 liter. But you start putting a load on this engine, especially if you start towing, and the mileage drops considerably and gets real close to the same territory that the 5.7 was in. However, this engine, especially in this particular iForce Max configuration, has so much more horsepower. 487 and 583, I believe, is the torque figure. Something, I'm just pulling those out of my backside, but that's pretty much what they are. And so there you go. On the right here we have, this is very interesting. This is what your turbochargers are doing. Right now they appear to be doing nothing. I give them some gas and it's doing nothing, but as we drive, especially if you're going uphill, you'll start to see this thing creep around quite a bit. And the more load you put on it, the more turbocharging is in effect, up to 20 psi there. And to the right is your max part, which is your hybrid part. And as you can see, there's a little gauge right there that tells me I'm about 3/4, a little past that, in terms of the battery being charged, the nickel metal hydride battery that is located beneath the rear seat. I'll show it to you. So what else do we have here? Well, there's our current distance to empty is 323 miles. This thing incidentally has, I believe, a 32-gallon gas tank, which is plentiful. That's quite good. And trip meter, we've driven this thing 71.6 miles so far. What else do we have? That's what we're set on, and that's all it's going to tell me right now. If I go this way, there's no message. There's these are all settings for all kinds of things, like the lane something or other, transition, sliding out of, that alert system. I've turned that off. Your PCS, which is your predictive collision sensor, is on. Your BSM, which is your blind spot monitor, is on. Then you have your parking sensors on, and your rear cross traffic alert is on. And see, look at all the rest of the stuff you have, and you can customize the right and left side. If we hit that, nothing happens. If we hit that, no, that doesn't work. Wait a minute, I want to go down there. What can I, okay, system on and off. Customize right side. Now if I push OK, there we go. Boost gauges, and we can also go with tow gauges. Now the tow gauges, there you go. Real nice. We'll also tell you the 2 previous values, which was the hybrid battery use and the turbocharger use. And then further to the right we have oil temperature, and then further to the right we have transmission temperature. All very good stuff to have when you're doing your towing there. This is your pitch and roll, which is your off-road stuff. As you can see, at the moment we're not completely level. We're at 30 degrees, 30 degrees, 30 degrees, and 30 degrees. I don't know what that means. We're pitched slightly because I'm kind of in a hole right here where I parked. That wasn't very smart. But that's how I roll. Tow gauges, boost gauges, and then there we go. So we'll just go back now. There we go. Trailer settings. What do we got there? Well, you select and add a trailer. Again, you have to go through a process. Consult your owner's manual that will help you customize the trailer that you have, that you're towing, to the vehicle, and that'll enable a bunch of wonderful things, like it can back itself up in a straight line, which can be very, very handy if you're not very good at driving a trailer. And if we say add new trailer, oh sure, my trailer, then you tell what type it is: cargo, boat, camper. And as usual, they pop up: motorcycle, ATV, watercraft, snowmobile. car hauler, flatbed, dump, horse. There it is. God, you got to go all the way down there. But all these different trailers are in here, which is kind of interesting. And we'll go back here. And we'll go back here. So that's all these things are designed to customize exactly your trailer towing experience and use all the wonderful trailer assists that it has. And incidentally, while I'm on the subject, right down here is your trailer brake controller, which is right there, convenient. That's a real good place for it, actually, where you can adjust the gain and stuff on your, you don't have to go buy a trailer brake controller like on most full-size pickups nowadays, and some compacts. You can go right ahead and just use the one that came with the vehicle. Isn't that nice? And then we have trailer light check, which is great. Then we have vehicle settings, and there's alerts, rear seat alert if your tailgate's down. How about that? The tire sensors, which you sometimes need to recalibrate depending on what your situation is. And what I think you can do, and I don't swear to this, but if you're going to use this thing off-road a lot, there will be times where you will lower your inflation pressure on your tires in order to enable better traction. And if you do that, the tire sensor light's going to come on. But I think you can recalibrate this while you're, if you have the time, and it won't take very long, to go ahead and recalibrate and turn that light off while you're driving off-road with the lower pressure. And then once you get back on the road, you can bring the tires back up to proper road pressure and recalibrate again. And it won't take you that long. It's that's a very nice feature to have. Oh, that's on. The rear seat reminder. I hate those. I'm trying to turn it off. Trying really hard to turn it off. There we go. And there we go, and there we go. There's our scheduled maintenance, oil maintenance. What does that say? Reset data? No, we're good. But boy, that's easy. If you're into changing your own oil and you want to turn that maintenance required light off, there you go. It's right there. Okay, so that's all that, and we can go here. This is we went to the trailer area. Here's our audio information. Here is our navigational information. In this case, a compass. And here we have our environmental information in terms of fuel consumption. So that's all there. Pretty nice. So you've now experienced the Tundra TRD Pro digital experience, which we all, you're right now experiencing the Boots Tarkington digital experience, because I'm just digitized. I don't exactly exist, but anyway, let's drop down, shall we? And on our steering wheel is like most modern contemporary steering wheels. It's loaded with stuff. On the right side, we have all our controls for our cruise control, including you can have regular adaptive cruise control, or you can push this button right here and it'll steer for you, sort of. You'll see that when I'm driving, how that works or doesn't. It depends on the circumstances, because it has to be able, the camera, which is located up in there, has to be able to see the lines in the road in order to steer the vehicle for you. So this down here is actually, we're jumping over to our audio system here, because this will select different modes of your audio, or AM, FM, satellite radio, XM. Wonderfully good stuff on the XM radio. Unfortunately, it's ludicrously overpriced, but you get a few months for free, and then you have to pay for it. By the way, while I'm on the subject, there's our navigation, and it's beautiful, isn't it? I'll go into it in depth in a minute, but there was a period of time where you had to subscribe to a service through Toyota and give them money, like monthly or probably annually, in order to get your navigation system to work. This one, I think they've got a new, I thought I saw something that said something. I don't have my Roni here. What an idiot. Well, I'll correct this at the bottom of the screen if I have to. But I think you may get a year or 2 or 3 years for free before you have to start subscribing to it. Which they've all had to do that because they've all been trying this model of making people subscribe to these things. And people have been upset, like rightly so in my opinion. Because it's ridiculous, especially if you look at how many cars we've had for how long, that you just buy the car with a navigation system and off you go. You have everything you need. The car will has GPS on it and everything else, and off you go. And the idea of having to pay for it every month, to me, is nuts. Now the argument they'll make, and it does have some validity, is that you can get real-time Google usually generated traffic information on your maps as you're driving. So like if there's a huge traffic jam ahead, they can steer you around it and that kind of thing. So you're paying a subscription price for that. However, as you know, with your smartphone, and by the way, this thing naturally can take either Google Auto or whatever it's called, or Apple CarPlay. You can use navigation, I think, through that. And you won't have to pay I mean, it's just crazy. Everybody's trying to got their hand out to get more money out of you. And if $75,000 isn't enough for this truck, they want more. But like I said, it looks like you have some that is gratis, that is paid for when you bought the truck with the navigation system. So anyway, that's a real pet peeve of mine. Where were we? Oh yes, over here. This is what I was using to navigate up and down there, as you can see. And left and right there. There you go. This is your telephone. Hello, telephone. This is your back button. This is your talk to the car mode. And this is your volume. So you got your volume for your stereo over here. You got your mode over here. You got your favorite channels over here. So it's kind of spread out, but I mean, whatever. It works. It's just the logic is not there in my opinion. Dropping down here, look at all the stuff we have here. Well, this is whether or not your bed light comes on and off when you open the door. Automatic headlights, which will dim the beams if necessary for you, so you don't blind oncoming traffic. Very nice feature. This is your dash lights for more than any other. You don't really have a dash anymore, you have a screen. But this is opening the fuel door, which you have to do with hybrids because it's all part of the zero emission goals. You have a certain amount of time that you can fuel the vehicle when it's a hybrid, and once you've pressed the button to do so. So there you go. Then we have, we can turn off our rear sensors if you like backed up against something, or a trailer even. I don't know. It'll stop that. Stop that. Here we have our TRD light bar. It blinks and then goes off. Why does it do that? I don't know. Maybe because the regular headlights aren't on? That's interesting. Here, heated steering. Yes, here's your AC 120. And where is that accessed? We'll find it. And this here is a light that's on the mirror. As you can see, I just turned that thing on, turned it off, turned it on. That's very cool. I actually like that. What happens if I do this? Look at there. The trailer mirror is trailering. Isn't that something? Get out there and so you can, and there we go back in. I have a real rant to do about these mirrors, which you'll get to hear later. Aren't you lucky? You'll get to hear that later. I have a real problem with these mirrors. They're beautiful when they're mirroring, but there's a problem. What else do we have? Well, down here here's the normal stuff. And this is, by the way, you can fold these big boys in. There we go. Bang. Okay, that works on both sides, by the way. And I think we got everything on that side. Yeah, now. Okay, our major touchscreen. Hello, major touchscreen. I've got this adjusted right now so it's on night mode because I do not like the daytime mode. That's just me. Trip information, that's useless. Personal information, Bluetooth and general. Let's go to general, date and time, keyboard accessibility. No. That's not really what we want. Display, that's what we want. Here we go. Automatic. Now if I do this, watch this. See, that's the normal daytime mode, and I find it too bright and the contrast too low to be of much I find it annoying if I'm going to be logical. See, and here's our map. That's what our map looks like. Now, you judge the distance here. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go back down here and go. Oh, I haven't. See, I can't even remember where everything is. This is the thing. The new Toyota system vexes the crap out of me, and I blame me. I don't blame Toyota, but it just makes no sense. Now we'll go dark. There we go, and now we go back up to navigation. You see, I find that much easier to read personally. But the nice thing is, you have a choice. You can pick that if you want. You can put it on automatic, and it'll dim at night to this particular mode, or it'll stay bright during the day, or you can turn on and leave it bright all the time or dark all the time. That's great. I love being able to have that choice, and that's very good. While I'm here, I go down here and look at here. Look at all these cameras we have. Here's our 360. 360 is of great value, and you can pause it. Pause it right there. See, there's my Buddha. You can see my Buddha out there. Isn't that something? This is a virtual reality. The truck is virtual, but around it is reality. See, there's a big old rock I'm parked on right there. Isn't that something? I think that's great. What's this? I could change the color of the truck to this, which is the color of the truck, and that's important. But one thing that's interesting about this is while I'm sitting here, I don't seem to have access to, what happens if I do that? What happens if I can't do that. That's the only option it really gives me. I put pause, and I would love, there's made the truck disappear. I'd love to have some access to some of the other cameras while I'm sitting here like this, but I don't think I can. Now, if it's in drive, I have access to a whole lot more. There's a lot of cameras on this truck that are all very, very useful, including one I've used off-road quite a bit is the front camera, which can give you a view of the road immediately in front of the truck, which is excellent, in my view. So anyway, what else do we have down here? Well, here we have our climate control system. Very straightforward. Your up and down temperature is right there. You can sync between the two or not sync between the two zones. And believe me, this thing is so wide and it's such a big vehicle that the seat over there, hello, it really is its own zone over there. So if you have a person that it's not unusual at all to have someone who's very sensitive to the cold, well, they can crank their side up a lot more in the heating department during the wintertime here, and they'll be all happy. So never ignore the fact that you can do that, because it can come in real handy, and it can extend the life of your marriage, in my opinion. Here we have heated seats. Here we have ventilated seats. Nice, huh? And naturally your defroster and all the rest of it. Very straightforward, very easy to master. In terms of the radio, all we have is an on-off, which you press, and then volume. And then you got to fight through this menu here, which is a pain in the butt, by the way. Hey, let's go way out. Let's go way out. Let's see the world. Woo! Look at there. There's the coast. Now, for some reason, no, this is essentially correct. The ocean is, in fact, off there to the... Wait a minute. Is that backwards? Huh. Very strange, this map. I'm disoriented looking at it. It looks like it's ass backwards to me, but it actually isn't. It's because we're facing south, that's why. And if I hit that, oh, okay, well, all right. That's where the address I happen to be at the moment. Huh. But I guess it is completely oriented itself as if I was to drive. But is the ocean really to the left here? Yes, it is. I'll be damned. You can look all the way up and see the Gulf of Maine. Nice. Okay, anyway, let's drop down. This right here activates your trailer mode, trailer backup guide. And this is, again, as it says right over here, you have to have all this information put in as to what kind of trailer you're actually dealing with. Okay, 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 okay. There we go. Oh, nope, okay. Let's go back here. All right, hang on. There we go. So, next to that is this is what I was doing to activate the camera. This is your stability control. You can turn it off. This is your locking rear differential. Very valuable to have off-roading if you need to lock those two rear wheels up instead of having an open differential. I'll tell you though, I've done a fair amount of off-road driving in my life, and there's sometimes an open differential can actually be your friend. And I won't get into that unless I ever do a primer on off-road driving, but it's great to have a locking differential. It really is, but it's not always necessary. Now then, we go in here. Here's our shifter, very normal shifter. And if I put it in the drive there and kick it over here, we got our manual. And how many speeds, children? 10. The old Tundra used to have 6. for some reason it's so much better now that it has 4 more. No, I don't get that. Judging for the fact that the fuel economy increase for this vehicle is not that great, I'm a real big fan of that old 6-speed transmission because it's pretty bulletproof. Maybe this one will be just as bulletproof. We'll see. Knowing Toyota, it probably is. But okay, here we have our drive modes. I showed you that, the Eco, the Sport, and the Normal. And then we have the tow haul mode, which changes everything. Puts a larger engine in it. No, it doesn't do that, but it changes some gearing, changes some shift points, does a lot of things to facilitate towing. Here's our crawl control, which I will demonstrate for you later in this video, which is really fun. And MTS stands for Motorized Truck Situation. I can't remember what that does. How important can it really be? Well, I'll put it at the bottom of the screen what it stands for because I don't remember. Now here we have our selector. We're in 2-wheel drive high now, and then you can go to 4 high just like that. And this truck seems to go into 4-wheel drive easier than my previous 3rd generation Tundra experiences. It's much better. But this is one of the things I have a real problem with. If you have dogs, and I have dogs, and I've had dogs pretty much most of my adult life, dogs tend to, especially if you're out at the farm or someplace like that where you're just tootling around on these little roads and going to places to go do things, at the barn, wherever, the dogs tend to come up here, and they like to be next to you, and they come up here. They could put this thing into a different setting. If you had it in, like, let's say you're having it in 4-wheel drive high because you're going down a muddy trail, and the dog comes up and they can easily push it and pull it, just hit it with their paw, and they're going to put it into 2 high. I just feel like they didn't think. And I asked Toyota about this, and all they told me was, no, we didn't look in it. We didn't do any testing with dogs. Like, who the hell are you? I mean, a dog? Yeah, I got news for you. An amazing number of people that have pickup trucks also have dogs, especially people that have a pickup truck that they use it for work. A lot of times they have a dog. So why would you put this here when on the previous Tundra it was up here and completely out of harm's way? Even my 4Runner, the dial for that is way up here and out of harm's way. The dogs have never ever touched it. So that's a real rant I have with it, and I feel like there's so many things like that on this truck. They really didn't test it as much as they should have, because if you're going to change a truck after 14 years, you would think that there's not a single detail that you wouldn't want to test. And instead, the company, by their own admission, and during COVID, spent a whopping 2 years building this truck. And that ain't long enough, man. You should have spent 5. You should have tested it more. My opinion, my rant, but that's the problem I have with this, is I think this truck was really thrown together. And it's there to compete with all the other guys. So anyhow, here's our console. It's deep, it's huge. We have a coin thing. We have a USB-C and a USB-A, which is ideal. I mean, your device will be plugged in successfully with that. And where is, I don't know where it is. There isn't 120. I showed you over here. Woo! There's a button for the 120 volt, and that doesn't say how many watts or amps. This particular, I don't know where it is. Maybe it's in the back seat. We'll look and we'll find it. But somewhere in this truck is a AC outlet, but I just don't know where. Haven't found it. Over here, here's a great example of how beautiful these seats are, because they are. They're made out of Softex, I believe, which is a very good leather synthetic that Toyota uses for a lot of things now. And it's got the camouflage underneath that. It's very fancy. The support is excellent on these seats. And the Softex is interesting from an environmental standpoint. It actually uses more carbon, less carbon than the process that they use to make leather seats. It's also really durable and much easier to clean spill off, and has a higher degree of water resistance than leather does. So it's a real good choice, and I'm glad Toyota continues to use this on their vehicles, because in my personal experience, it's tough too. It's good sound. It's an excellent choice. You also get, incidentally, with this package these wonderful rubber floor mats, which I can't tell you how valuable that is, because if you're anywhere that has mud, you're going to need that. All right, what do we have up here? Well, we have an unusually generous sunglass holder or a glass holder or whatever. We have our, what was that? That was your rear window. How about that? I know a lot of you people love that. Some vehicles do not have that anymore in the Toyota lineup that used to have it, and that drives me crazy too. Here we have our shade for our panorama. Here she comes. And now it's all quiet and intimate. But I like it open and beautiful. And then of course you got this, we can also open up this, or can I? What does this do? I don't know what this does. Huh. What's that say? It says roof. There we go. Look at the size of that sunroof. Now that is cool. That is a nice breathy thingy with the, got your filter, that, excuse me, your deflector that comes up there. That's nice. That's a nice system. Okay, so are we ready to go in the back seat? Have we covered everything here? You got your cup holders. Oh yeah, here's your charger, which seems to suffer the same problems that all the other Toyota QI chargers have. For my cell phone, with has a case on it, sometimes it'll charge, sometimes it won't. The slightest bump seems to upset it, so it won't continue charging. So I don't know what to make of that. Now here's an interesting thing. I'm just trying to, there we go. Our gas mileage is plummeting because the engine is running quite a bit. There, it shut off. Considering it's a hybrid, the engine's been running quite a bit, and I'm assuming because, well, it says it's 40 degrees outside. It actually feels colder than that to me, but anyway, let's go back outside here. And since this is the only available cab configuration, which is a full crew cab, you have this enormous rear door for access. And there's no running boards on this thing. I imagine there's an option for like maybe even some rock bars on the side. I'm not real sure. Oh, what's this? Oh, what is this? Look at that. It's a first aid kit. 10 points to Gryffindor. That's excellent. I wish all cars came with those. That's terrific. Lexus does, but it's nice that they put it in this Toyota. I think that's fantastic. But a real big door opening, and for some of you that are not as spry as you used to be, you can grab hold here. Ah, jeez, oh God. And it's limo-like back here. There's so much room. The floor is, there's a very slight tunnel here, but it's no big deal. And there it is. There's your AC outlet right there with 100 watts, 400 watts slash 100 watts. What the hell does that mean? Maybe if you, if there's one in the bed. Is there one in the bed? Yes, there is. Okay, if you use the one in the bed and this one at the same time, I imagine it splits at the 100 watts each. Otherwise, if you're only using one of them, it's 400 watts, which I'm guessing. I don't know if that's true, but that would make perfect sense to me. The seat angle and everything is great back here. It's actually very comfortable. How far does our window go down? Someone turned it. Oh, man. Every time I get in these trucks, some yahoo does that. All the way down. Look at that. That's excellent. You got a lot of room. Speaking of dogs, the dogs would be thrilled back here because they got this window that goes down. They got this window that goes down. So you put it down enough so your dog can't leap out, and they're real comfortable out here. But if they come up here, beware the drive selector. Here we got two generous cup holders right there. You got your ventilation here, USB-A, USB-C. You're covered riding back here, and it's nice. You got good headroom, got, like I said, outstanding leg room here. It's well, look at this here. I'm just well, I tell you, you know, that's the way it is. It's stocks, bonds, whatever. You see, nice, huh? We got plenty of room, but what we don't have is storage under the seat. Now, why is that? Well, I'll show you. I'll show you right now. Here we have access. Pull that up. Hang on. I'm going to put you down for a minute. I gotta use both hands for this. There we go. As you can see, there is our hybrid battery, our nickel metal hydride unit. And this says FUSA, also known as fuse. There's a fuse here, and you don't have any real access to anything here as far as there's no room. You pull this down and lower her back down here. Now you also, if you are so inclined, you have this here. Here we go again. Put you there. You got this, you pull this. No, that's not it. That's not it. Well, this one here, I've done this before. That lowers. You really don't have anything behind this seat, but on the other side, let's go to the other side. See, we're walking along here, and come on over to the other side. And here we go. And hang on there. Stay there, stay. I'm going to have to, you're not going to stay there, are you? All right, how about here? How about right there? There we go. There we go. First of all, we'll do this, and there we go. Now, what do we have back here? You got to lower it, take the headrest off, I guess. There's our jack, and there's a little bit of storage here. Put your fishing rod in there, if it's a collapsible, yeah. But like I said, there's just not a whole lot of storage here. You pull this up here, and it has another fuse. It's exactly like that side, except it has a fuse and something else. So access to the battery should it need to be serviced or cared for. Very important right here. Here's your ventilation for your battery, and that cooling system that is very important with these big batteries. Oh, we just started our engine. How about that? So there we go, folks. That's your interior right there. It's got a lot of space, and it is the interior of the TRD Pro. There is no other. There is no regular cab or extended cab. There's no regular cab in the entire Tundra lineup anymore, which is a real shame for people that would like a regular cab and an 8-foot bed. You're out of luck. You have to go to another manufacturer. And that's it for this. Is it comfortable and quiet? Yeah, it is. And it's confusing until you get used to it, and then you're fine. All right, onward. Oh, I say, it's fun. Let's show you. Let's do some crawl controlling. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going into 4-wheel drive high right there. See, that's 4-wheel drive high, and there it is. Boom! It actually, sometimes it takes a while for it to engage, but boom! It just engaged. Good for you with your engagement. Now we go to neutral, right? And we're going to press down on this thing and go into 4-wheel drive low. And now what's going on with that? It says 4 low. We're in 4 low. The VSC, which is the variable suspension controlling. No, that's your stability control, actually. That's your pre-collision brake system also. These are unavailable in this particular mode for reasons that are, I don't know, but who cares? We're not going to be using our pre-collision or our VSC. The stability control is primarily for higher speeds anyway. We're going to slow it because we're in 4-wheel drive low, okay? So then we go into drive like this, and then I want to hit DAC crawl control. There's our crawl control. And look up here. There we have our, you're just going to not let me pick my crawl? I want to pick my crawl, dude. We have high, 2. We'll start at high 2, which is the fastest. Let off the gas and it'll drive itself. But now I can slow down if I want to and put it on high 1. And then I can go down that and put it on mid. So what we have here, obviously, see on our terrain there, is we have cruise control for off-road. This has been around a while, but this is the latest permutation from Toyota. And it works pretty good. If I want to slow down even more, then I can go to low 1. And how slow is slow? Let's go to low 2. I am just creeping along here, but I have at my disposal all this horsepower should I want to zoom along and just crush everything in my way. Here we go, we're speeding up again. High 1, high 2. There we are. You have now experienced crawl control. How do I get out of crawl control, Boots? Well, okay, like this. Put on the brake. You stop. Switch off. We put it back into neutral. 4-wheel drive high. And I can hear clicking and boom. Now we're in 4-wheel drive high, just like that. And then I want to go to 2H to go into 2-wheel drive. And now we're in 2-wheel drive. Back into drive. And whee! Off we go. We have our VSC back on. We have our pre-collision stuff on. Let's hit this big old rock here at speed. Whoa, whoa! It just sucks it up. All these off-road trucks will do that for you. They'll suck up your bumps and your rocks. Now, isn't that quite the mirror? I tell you what, that's a beautiful towing mirror. But I tell you what I really hate about it. Look at how high it's mounted up in the window. And if you pull up to certain intersections, it completely blocks your view onto what's coming on a crossroad, and that's bad. And one of the things I have to give Ford credit for, and they did this years ago. Actually, they went. This goes back way long time, but they've always mounted their mirrors lower, especially their bigger towing mirrors, and then somewhere. Probably around 2004, I believe it was, when they came up with the new model F-150. It had a cut-in in the door, just like the Super Duties had, so they could mount the mirror lower and you can see over it in traffic, but you still have full access to what the mirror is showing you as far as what's beside and behind you. So I think it would be great if Toyota would learn from that, because this is bad, actually. There's an intersection I go through regularly, and it's real hard between the A-pillar right here and the mirror here. It's difficult to be able to see the traffic that's coming, and that's never good. So, just word to the wise, know what I'm saying? All right then. Well, you know, I have real problems with the new Tundra family, I have to tell you. Compared to the old, when I get into Tundras, the new Tundra, and all I see is hood. I'm not sure why that is, and I you know, a really good journalist would actually make some empirical measurements about where your eye point is and what you're actually seeing, and is there actually more hood in the picture than before. But you know, let's go over these bumps with our TRD suspension. TRD Pro. Big rock. Bunk. Huh. Just ignores it. That's good. That's nice. So how different is the TRD Pro Sequoia tested earlier to this TRD Pro Tundra? Well, chassis-wise, I think they're extremely similar. I don't know of much. They've done so many compromises to the Sequoia in terms of rear seat, third row room. It's not that bad though. That's the thing. One of the things I want to point out about the Sequoia is everyone's talking about it has less room than the last Sequoia in terms of the third row. That may be, but it's still usable. It's but the reason they did that is they got rid of a really good suspension on the previous Sequoia and put in this, there we go, and put in this straight axle. It's basically the same axle, I think, that this thing has. And they're doing all these things to try to you know, this is a totally corporate thing. They're trying to streamline production and lower their cost of production while charging record amounts of money on these vehicles because they're popular right now. I mean, this is a $75,000 truck, and yeah, it's got a lot of stuff on it, but as far as the nuts and bolts go, it can tow more than our 2014 Tundra with the 5.7 liter, but it has 100-pound less payload, lower payload. So that's ridiculous. I mean, if we need anything in our lives, we actually use our truck. We pull a horse trailer with it. We haul all kinds of things with it that have to do with our farm, and we could use more payload capacity. I mean, we overload it regularly. Or I say we. My wife does. She overloads it regularly, but it handles everything fine. We've had no trouble at all with it, and I have really good tires on there, and good rear. Just put some new rear shocks on there that are really good. But you know, I think every half-ton truck, since they're talking about towing 10,000 pounds plus on most of them nowadays, you should at least have a 2,000-pound payload. And they claim in the specifications, like, this truck has supposedly got a 1,600-pound payload capacity, but it's, according to the placard on the door, which is the actual capacity as it's rated by the company, is 1,300 pounds. And you know, that's 300 pounds less than the best, and 700 pounds less than what I think it should be. So I don't know what's going on. I mean, they're just responding to the market, right? I'm not so sure. The truck's quiet, yeah, and but for 2024, this truck's been out. This is the second year of this truck now. I mean, it came out in 2022, then we had the 2023, and this is a 2024. And I feel like they haven't addressed any of the problems they need to address on it. And this, right now, for all intents and purposes, I could be driving the Sequoia, because they do feel that similar to each other. The one I tested, TRD Pro, had something I found very useful that this vehicle does not have, which is it had a camera up in here that you could actually record footage, which your basic monitor cam type situation, which not only interesting on the trail to use if you need that for if you're inspecting something and you'd like to just have a record of it, but it's also really good just in general driving. If heaven forbid you have some sort of an accident, you have a visual record of what happened, at least from the perspective of the driver. So what else can I tell you about this thing? Well, it rides very well. Doesn't ride, seems to not ride any, there's no punishment imparted upon you for going with the off-road package, the Off-Road Pro package, which is a bunch of Fox shocks, a lot more travel, I believe, a lot more heavy duty, but there's the ride quality is still very good. Matter of fact, it's probably, it almost feels like it might even be better than what we're used to with the Tundras. This seems to me that it rides a little bit better. And it's really interesting, my miles per gallon, even though I'm just tootling around here in the suburbs in my hybrid, and it's on the eco setting, and I'm averaging now, according to the 16.8 miles per gallon. That's what pickups have been getting forever with V8 engines. I mean, it's just everybody, and I think I'm one of them, with both the Ford and the Toyota, but especially the Toyota, which took longer to come to market, and you assume they work more on, even though it's identical to the configuration that's in the Ford F-150 hybrid. Just a different type of battery, and the V6 engines are a little different, but they're both twin turbo. It's like almost like a parallel hybrid system. And neither, and especially on this Tundra, it doesn't seem to do anything for fuel efficiency. It's all pointed at making it feel as strong as possible and have those, like I said, those really high. I think they think the #1 selling point in pickups these days is what the numbers are on the engine. More horsepower and more torque, that they're more likely to sell the truck, and I think they've been so focused on that. As you can tell, it's got a lot of beans to it when you get on it, but that's not why you buy a pickup, is it? For some guys, I guess that's real important to them, but I don't know. You know, there's a part of me I have to, as a reviewer, I had such high hopes for a redesigned Tundra because I thought they would take everything they had that was good and make it even better, and add on stuff that would make it more versatile, more practical, better gas mileage, better payload capacity. Nope. It does have a much higher towing capacity, and I'm sure it probably tows fine because it's basically, like I said, you're looking at a Land Cruiser frame on this thing. It's not a, and I'll never shut up about the fact that I think the triple tech frame on the previous Tundra, which was the front section of the frame was boxed, middle section was double C-channel, which you see incidentally all the time on tractor trailers, because it just makes for a real strong, you can really add a degree of stiffness to it where you need to. And then the rear that primarily was underneath the cargo bed was open C-channel, because you actually, the more it can flex within certain means, the better it is, because that improves ride, improves handling, and it also improves the torture that the chassis endures when you go over rough terrain with a heavy load. So I thought it was a great frame, and this is just another, everybody decided if they say it's fully boxed, it's somehow better. And what they've done with fully boxing frames is they've made the frame as strong. They always say it's stiffer. If you'll notice this, going back into the 80s, every generation had a stiffer frame than according to the manufacturer. So, you know, apparently those first frames on those trucks were like noodles compared to what we have now. Although, you know, we had a 1-ton International Harvester pickup that had and the payload, single rear wheels, and the payload capacity of that truck was 5,000 pounds. And I'll put it this way, it didn't have any frame issues, that's for sure. Well, here's our dual exhaust on our TRD Tundra Pro. As you can see, it's just a forking at the end. You see, it's just a single that goes in there. You're fooling no one, Tundra, no one. But here we have our rear suspension system, starting with our frame, which is this beautiful fully boxed frame. And if you look up in there, right up there we are, you can see the composite bed doing its compositing right there, which is good. Now, what we have in our rear suspension, we have no leaf springs, of course. It is a coil spring setup. And as you can see, the spring is mounted directly onto the rear axle. Now, the Raptor, which is one of its main competitors, this vehicle, the Ford F-150 Raptor, has a saddle that's kind of down in here that the coil spring actually mounts to. Now, this is directly on the axle, which is kind of common practice when you have a straight axle and a coil spring. Why that is, I have no idea why Ford does that. Is it better? Couldn't tell you, because I don't really think it is. I don't know. It's just a different approach, but both of these vehicles have a lot of travel and a lot of durability in terms of the rear suspension, and if you want to zoom down the desert, you certainly can. If you look up in there, right up here, that is our beautiful Fox shock absorber with a remote, and that right there is, hang on, there we go. That's a remote reservoir. Now, what are these remote reservoirs for? Well, the idea behind it is if you're going down a really washboardy, rough, bangety thing, and your shocks are just working and working and pumping, the fluid in there can get warm, hot, aerated, in which case it's not as effective as when it's not in that particular state. So, if you have a remote reservoir, it has a chance to cool down the fluid a little bit, and therefore the shock functions much closer to normal spec without having all that terrible heat doing things to it. So that's what that's about. Now, what the heck is this thing here? Well, that's your panhard rod. Now the thing is, when you have a coil spring rear suspension with a leaf spring, you have a leaf that runs along here, and it would attach up here and back here on the frame, and that locates the rear axle. And that's pretty much it. That's all you need. But with a coil, you got to have all these other things to locate that rear axle. For starters, we have our, here's our front link, and that's a real strong link, by the way. Very stout, obviously meant to take some punishment. The upper link this is the top part of it, and I don't know if you can see in there, but that's the upper link that goes into the, let's go underneath there and have a look, shall we? There's the front part of the front link, or top link rather. And as you can see, while we're here, it is a fully boxed frame. It's pretty substantial. It has a lot of areas in here so that the salt and the snow melt can drain out, supposedly. I still am big on having a C-channel, just because you just make it out of stiffer metal and you can clean it out completely when you wash the undercarriage of the car. With this, some of it's going to get trapped in there, but Toyota's done a lot of work. There's wax in there and all kinds of things to keep rust from being a problem. And we'll see. Time will tell. The previous Tundra did very, very good until you get to a certain place, like about 10 years or so, and then you start to get some rust issues. But so do everybody else, to be honest with you. Undercarriage, if you live in an area where they're ludicrously putting enormous amounts of salt on the road in wintertime instead of just some sand, because they literally want, within 24 hours of a big snowstorm, they want the roads to be dry. So what are you going to do? Safety first until your car starts to fall apart. Anyway. Your differential here is a beautiful, substantial thing. It's a 331 rear axle as opposed to a 430 rear axle that the previous Tundra came on. So again, that's the effect essentially of having the 10-speed transmission, I guess. You can get roughly the same drive ratio out of it. And like I say, this engine has so much more horsepower and torque than the previous 5.7 V8. That it all works out in the end as far as the ratios go, and I'm sure it's you can just tell by looking at this. Is a very substantial rear axle housing, and here is where the other side of our panhard rod comes into our rear axle. And once again, there's our reservoir, and there's our shock absorber, and there's our mount for the shock absorber, which is, look at how substantial. That's some superstructure there. It's really built to take some punishment, no question about it. And then you have your beautiful your disc brakes here, and your parking brake is electronic, right up in, that's what a lot of these wires and stuff are for. So that that's actually, the Toyota techs tell me that is such a better setup than the old previous mechanical parking brake, because if you actually have to fix it and replace stuff, it's real fast and easy to do so. But for the most part, you just have wiring that leads from the front brake actuator up to this brake on the actual rear wheel, so that instead of a wire and all that kinds of stuff that rusts and gets all caught up here in the Northeast. So what are you gonna do? There you go. That's an answer. That's a solution. Like with the previous Tundra, look at this drive shaft. I mean, my God, this thing is substantial. And there's your transfer case right there. And there's a cross beam. The frame does look really, really strong on this, and I'm sure it is. But like I said, it's a frame that's also designed for Land Cruisers and Tacomas. And they just do a few fiddles here and there so that it works on this vehicle. But I still say that's the #1 reason why we have coil springs instead of leaf springs. With me, because I'm an old timer, I'll tell you right now, when I was little, I still think coil springs are the best way to go for a pickup, because they, especially the modern coil, excuse me, that's a lie. leaf springs, I believe, are better for pickups, because the modern leaf springs, the metal, alloys, composites, and everything else they can make these things out of, it's a very, very progressive spring. It's extremely simple. You have far less in the way of linkage, and they're really, really good at hauling heavy loads and taking punishment. But, you know, now we're going to go with coils and get that degree of ride quality improvement that I don't detect, personally. The steering is great on this truck, but otherwise, I think it rides the same as the old Tundra, and that's me, and they hate me for it, but there you go. Here's our full-size spare, which I love. However, this is not a Falcon Wild Peak. This is a Michelin, what does it say there? LTX Trail. I'm sure this tire is every bit as expensive probably as a Falcon Wild Peak, but it's not as rugged as a Falcon Wild. I'm sure it's a good tire. It's okay, but for serious mudslinging when you're off-road in the outback and going over rocks and stuff, I think the Wild Peak's a better choice. Why they gave you this as a spare, I have no idea. All I can say is at least it is an 18-inch wheel, so it does match the other wheels on this truck, so it has a good solid full-size spare, because I have seen pickup trucks of the full-size variety that now have temporary rear spares, and that's beyond even four-wheel drive, and that's versions, and that's dumb. And what the hell are they doing, shaving a few pounds off? I don't know, makes me mad to even think about it. But then again, trucks aren't trucks anymore. Trucks are four-door cars that you can haul things with, and I don't know if that's what a lot of us need, but maybe so. Here we have all our extremely robust rear trailer fittings here. Look at the bolts on this thing. That's huge. This receiver is enormous. Wow, you can even see the marks when they installed it. Isn't that something? Those are San Antonio marks on there. Well, what are you gonna do? But that's the way they are. It's weird to see that, though. Everything else on here is beautifully finished. The paint quality is great. So I think it'll, as far as the elements going and salt on the road, I think this truck's probably going to do very, very good. Especially with that, there you can see it up in there. Right up in there. Here we go. Let's take the device. There you are. There's your composite. Oh, yeah. So that's a real good choice, I think, having a composite bed. Just like the Tacoma, it's been very successful on the Tacoma, which is the most popular mid-size pickup in this country and has been for years and years. So there you go. All right, let's take a look at the front, because the front is even more visually interesting than the rear. Let's see, what kind of truck is this? Oh, it's the TRD Pro. Isn't that a beautiful, and I mean beautiful, skid plate? And it goes all the way back. Where's the device? Here it is. It goes all the way back. What? There we go. Oh. The device is not activating. Did I break the device? Oh, the batteries must have died. Anyway, as you can see, it runs all the way back, covers the engine, covers part of the transmission is way back there. But good protection, man. You can just bash into stuff. That is very, very stoutly made, excuse me. And look at here, look at all our coolers. There's one of our radiators. And somewhere up in here, well, you really can't see it. There it is. Up in there, that would be your intercooler for your left side bank turbocharger, and there's one on the other side also. And look at all the air you got in here, all the space. It's kind of beautiful. And from looking at this skid plate, it looks like it's very easy to take off for your oil and filter change, so that's not a problem. That is welcome, because they took the canister system which on the old 5.7 Tundra, which is frankly a pain in the butt, but not bad, and it's a really good filter system. But having an old spin-on oil filter like this, the reason Toyota said they did the canister was to save metal and to environmental reasons, but I don't think that was it. I think the canister system like they have, which has a plastic housing, or you can get a metal housing for it actually, and you put the filter element in and out, I think could take a higher pressure and was just a better filtration system than a spin-on is. But a spin-on is perfectly adequate in terms of filtering the oil. So, especially with the modern oils that we have, it's good. It's just so much easier on the owner or whoever is doing the oil changes to just have a spin-on. That's what it ultimately came down to. I think people complained about it. Look at this massive red thing. Well, that's your anti-sway bar. Incidentally, there is an anti-sway bar on the rear axle as well. I just didn't show it. I don't know if I mentioned it, but it's there, and it runs in the front of the axle, and it's not down. Look, you can see right down there if you look. There's nothing hanging down that's going to catch on rocks or anything like that, with the possible exception of that huge shock mount in the reservoir, but I think you're probably okay. If you drive reasonably and don't do stuff that drive boulders right up and against it, you can go over them instead, then you'll have no problem. Now look at this beautiful shock array here, and that's not the only beautiful part of it. If you look up top, you can see that is a TRD front control arm. I have no idea what it's made out of, but it looks beautiful. It could be aluminum, as is this this side thing here, which is your, there's a name for that part, but it locates the front wheel. And in addition to being a beautiful red coil on there, it's really deep and tall. It's got like a lot of travel to it. So that's a work of art. It really is. And then you got your red drive shaft axle going into your boot of your independent front suspension situation. And then the lower arm, I think, is a regular Tundra type. I don't know if it's special for this vehicle or not. Could be. But yeah, it may well be, because look at the size and the mounting point for this shock absorber. And it's at a pretty good angle, a jaunty angle too, which I pointed out on the Raptor front suspension coil is at an even more dramatic angle than that. So I don't know. There's a lot of tuning going on in the engineering department with these off-road trucks. They're doing all kinds of things based on their experience in racing, no doubt.
Well, now that I've savaged this poor vehicle to an inch of its life with my relentless criticism, let's talk money. Your base price on your 2024 Tundra 4x4 TRD Pro 5.5, I don't know why it's called a 5.5. Base price $72,130. With options, we came to $74,270. Yep, a lot of money, but nothing compared to some of the other ones out there that compete directly in this class. And I'll tell you something real interesting about this truck is, if you actually need something and have the good off-road capability that all these various bits of enhancement from the TRD Pro give you, this is not a bad price at all. And it's got plenty of power, plenty of torque, and it is a very comfortable truck to drive. So if that's what you need something that can handle some of your off-road needs, this may be the truck for you after all. So you guys take care out there. We'll see you soon.
Do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.